Greetings, productive programmers. So in this video, we're going to go ahead and fire up our Phoenix LiveView application and get started building a simple LiveView application to demonstrate all of the fundamentals of Phoenix LiveView. So let's do it. Let's head over. I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to do make directory for fundamentals LiveView. And then I'm going to cd into that and build a Phoenix application, which is really simple. All you have to do is type mix space Pheonix.new, and then you can type the name of your application. I'm going to call it demo, and I'm going to do --no-ecto, which means we are not going to use a database because this is going to be a super simple application. In the future projects that we do in this course and in other courses will be much more complicated. We'll introduce all that complexity and build out databases and do other things that are really cool. But for now, just to learn the fundamentals, we're going to make it really simple, straight to the point, and just build a really awesome application to start off with. So what you do is you just run this command, and it's going to ask you if you want to install any dependencies. Of course you do. You just hit enter or type Y, and that will install all of your dependencies. This will take a minute. Okay, so once that's installed, it's going to create a demo folder for us because we named our application demo. So I'm going to cd into that demo application. And then just to make things easier, I'm going to go ahead and open this up in VS Code. You can use any text editor you want for this course, but I'm going to use VS Code because a lot of people use it and it's free. And so inside of this application, I'm going to start another terminal right inside of VS Code. And I'm going to go ahead and fire up our Phoenix LiveView application. And to do that, I'm just going to type mix Phoenix server. That'll take a second, fire up. It's available at localhost port 4000. So let's head on over there. Okay, so here's our Phoenix application. You should see a page like this, and you want to make sure that you're using 1.7. If you make sure you followed along in the install instructions where I showed that you might have to do the release candidate version until 1.7 is out of the release candidate phase. But you should have version 1.7. That's important because 1.7 ships with Tailwind now, which is really cool, and it has some newer updates. So we are now going to do something with this application, right? So we want to do something more than just fire up a basic application. Let's get into basically learning all of the fundamentals of Phoenix LiveView by basically going in and editing files and getting down to coding and seeing how everything interacts. So inside of our application, you can see by running our mix Phoenix new demo --no-ecto command, we generated all these files. And this is our demo web application. Inside of lib, you will locate the essential resources for how Phoenix handles web requests. And the web requests are handled in demo_web. So you can see that this is the name of the application that we gave it, _web. So if you named it hello world, it would be hello_world_web. But in our case, we named it demo. And so we have demo web here. And inside of this folder, you will locate your router. The router is the first point of contact that when we send a request to our server, it goes to the router, and the router handles routing that to where we want it to go. And so currently it's going to this page controller, which is what you're seeing here. And it's handling GET requests. GET, that's our GET requests. But we don't want to do GET requests. We want to do LiveView. And in order to do LiveView, LiveView ships with Phoenix by default. So it's already installed in our Phoenix application. We just have to use it by using the live keyword. So we don't want to do GET requests. We want to do a live page. And we're going to call this, we're going to change this, instead of page controller, we're going to do page live. And then our page live, well, our page live is actually not, it doesn't exist yet. So if we were to come over here to the website and refresh this, you'll see that it breaks. So we have to create that page live. And we are going to do that by coming over in this demo_web and creating a new folder that's called live. And this is where we're going to put all of our live view pages. So You have a section for controllers, which is where our previous where that get request was going to. It was going into here into the page controller, but we don't want that. We want a live view page, so we're going to do inside of live. We're going to create a new file. It's going to be called page_live.ex. So whenever you create a live view page, you need to do the following type of structure. You need to follow the default Elixir code. When you define a module in Elixir, you always do def module. So this is Elixir here. So again, Pheonix uses Elixir, so we have to write Elixir code to basically build out all the coding portions of Pheonix. So Pheonix is the framework and Elixir is the programming language. So we're writing Elixir right now, and we're defining a module, and we're going to define that as page live. And we're going to do, we're going to call this, oh, sorry. Actually, you need to do the name of your web application first. So I'm going to do demo web dot, and then we're going to do page live. Do, okay? So we defined our module. It is demo web, which is the name of our web application. Because again, we named it demo, so it's demo web. So we define the module demo web, and we name it page live. So page live is going to be our live view page that our router is routing to. So there's some basic structure that you have to follow when you use live view. And the first thing you want to do is you want to say use demo web, so the name of our web application, and just make sure you follow this capitalization. It's important. Demo, the D is capital and the W is capital. So demo web, comma, and I'm going to make this a live view. And you can see what I'm typing, so I'll try to refrain from spelling out all of the stuff going forward. So I'll just tell you what I'm doing, and you'll see what I type, and then you can just kind of go from there. But I just wanted to point out that those capitalizations are important. And this is the way that we define that this is going to be a live view page. So this colon syntax here, as we mentioned before, if you remember from the earlier installation phases, if not, if you missed it, I'll just re-explain that is an atom. So that's a data structure in Elixir when it has that leading colon there. So that is just saying that this is a live view page. And so now we have to follow some basic structure to make our live view page work. We need to do def mount. And what we need to do is we need to mount a socket, because remember that Phoenix LiveView is going to create a two-way communication over a WebSocket. So we are going to mount a socket. So we do mount, and it takes a couple commands. The first one is parameters, like the ones that you pass in like get parameters and so forth. We're not going to use them. So when you're not using something, you can put this leading underscore here to indicate that you're not planning to use those parameters. Otherwise, if we did use them, we'd get rid of it. But for now, just not using them. So not using that, and we're not using any session data, but we are using the socket. And again, very simple application. So we're just jumping right to the essentials using the socket. And Phoenix LiveView requires us to return a status. And so I'm going to return OK, and also I'm going to return the socket, because we always need to pass the socket back and forth, because it's like this two-way communication. So we always have to be communicating with the socket. And so if you're new to Elixir, what you need to know is that there's no return commands. You don't type return like this or anything. Basically, the last line on any of your definitions, these are your functions here. Any of your functions, the last line is what it returns, and Elixir always returns. So since a function always returns something in Elixir, it just is assumed that it returns. You don't have to type the return command. So yeah, so we are ready to go with our mount. That is good. But we need to go ahead and also define a render function, because without a render function, our page will still not render, right? And it will actually tell you, Phoenix LiveView is very helpful. It has some really helpful commands. Tells you that you need the render function is not implemented. And when it says render-1, what it's referring to is the arity. And arity basically means the number of parameters. You can think of it like that. And so they use the expression arity though, which is like number of parameters. So we need to define a render function with one parameter. Okay, no problem. So we'll do def and we'll do render. And we're going to, basically you always have to use this assigns syntax, and we'll understand what that means in a bit. But you want to define a render of what's assigned, which is basically the variables that we pass back and forth are what we've assigned. Right now we don't have anything assigned, but in later on in this lesson, we will have things assigned, so we'll need to put them in there. But for now, we're just passing our assigns of nothing really. And so what we do want to do though is we want to render something to the page. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put some text on the page. We're just going to make a simple hello world application. And I am going to use this funky little syntax here. It is a squiggly sign with a capital H, 3 quotes to open it and 3 quotes to end it. And then I'm going to type hello world exclamation mark. And I'm going to save that. And then if we come back over here to our page, I don't even have to hit refresh. It will auto reload this for us. And we can see it says hello world. So that's really cool about Phoenix LiveView. If I go ahead and I just do something new, and I hit save, it will just re-render the page. So you saw that it re-rendered that. I didn't hit refresh, it just auto refreshes. So very cool, just like React. If you've ever used React, you can just like detect changes and reload the page. Phoenix LiveView does that too while we're developing. It makes it super simple. And so you might be wondering, why did we have to use this weird syntax? Well, this squiggly H is called a sigil. And sigils are just ways to define what type of content that we're passing to it. And so when we use the sigil, which is a sigil is created by using the squiggly sign, and then we're using the sigil H. And the sigil H is basically a combination of HTML and Elixir code. So we are able to do Elixir code inside of this area and then inside of this template, and we are also able to do HTML. So check this out. So we can go ahead and add HTML here. So let's go ahead and let's just add the strong tags here. So we are going to make this bold by adding HTML to say make hello world strong text, which basically makes it bold. So we save it and then it auto reloads. You can see it's bold. So we can execute HTML inside of here along with our Elixir code. So let's go ahead and render some Elixir code. And in order to do that, we're going to pass a variable to it using the assigns variable that we discussed before. We said that we could pass variables to it. So let's see that in action. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this socket, and basically, again, that socket is the way that we communicate with the client. So everything that we do with them, again, is through the socket. It's very important. So when we want to assign variables and pass stuff to and from Phoenix LiveView to the client, we need to take advantage of that socket. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually pass some data to the socket so that we can pass that back and forth. So in order to do that, we need to take this socket and we need to put it inside of an assign function. So this assign function, we're going to assign variables to the socket. So we're assigning to the socket the variable number, and I'm going to set it to the number 7 just to have a unique number. And then in order to make this display where our HTML is, because we want to display Elixir code now, like we said, we're going to use this syntax to print out the number. So we can use this variable that we're passing here, so assigns, and then we can do dot number. And then if I save that and I head back over to our page, we can see that the number 7 appeared. So now we have our Elixir code and our HTML executing in the same file. So how cool is that? But there's something even cooler. You don't have to always type this assigns keyword every time. Elixir gives you some sugar syntax that we use more than we do using the full assigns variable. So you can just put this @ symbol before it and get rid of that dot. So we can do @ number. So this @ symbol basically is sugar syntax to refer to the assigns variable. So you can think of that as basically the A stands for assigns. So the number, we can print the number out now just by using this syntax. So if we come back over here and we refresh the page, it is still displaying 7. And just to show that that works, let's use a different number and set it to 5, just so you can see that I'm telling the truth. It is still displaying with this syntax as well. So there you go. So now we are displaying Elixir code and we are displaying HTML at the same time. So how cool is that? So now this is the really cool part. So what I'm going to show you is how we can execute some really interesting code without using JavaScript, but get like JavaScript-like results with Elixir, or with Phoenix LiveView. So this is really cool, and you can only do this with LiveView, where you don't use any JavaScript, and you're able to accomplish this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to set up a button, and we are going to add to this button a Pheonix click event. And we are going to give the event the label add. We're going to call it the event is going to be add, and we can make our button, we can call it add. And so if we go back to the page here, we can see that displayed. So you can see this button doesn't look very fancy right here. You can see it is a button, but it doesn't look like a button. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to use the dot syntax. So yeah, that's one of the new features of Phoenix LiveView. They moved all of the form-related types of structures that were their form helpers. They moved them into this syntax where you use the dot notation before it. So we do dot button now, and that'll make it render like a button with some visual Tailwind CSS applied to it. So if it's helpful to kind of understand this dot notation, basically, so LiveView came out with all these helpers and they've restructured it in 1.7. But these dot notation is used whenever you want to use a local function. So we could actually create something that we could do the same thing that LiveView did. If we did like def test, and then we had we had a sigil here where we pass it some stuff, and we're just going to say this is a test. So then if I was to pass this function in here, so using this syntax that we have here, you'll never really like use this, but I'm just trying to make it make more sense to you. This could be very useful for you. So let's pass in test with some, just anything, just pass to the function. And we'll see that it executes as this is a test. So what you could do is, instead of executing it this way, what you could do is you could actually execute it as a dot test like this. And then that will also execute it as a local function, right? So this is a test 2. See? So that notation with the dot in front of it is just a shorthand, additional sugar syntax to execute a local function. But we don't need that. We just were doing that to kind of showcase that this is why there's the dot notation for the button. These are helpers in LiveView that help generate these buttons, and all form elements have that helper notation for the most part. Okay, so we've got our button add, and we want to take advantage of it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this hello world text. So we just have our number, and we have a button to add. If we click it, it breaks, and it basically throws a little warning. It says that it's not functioning correctly. And if we look at our terminal here, we'll see there's a bunch of errors. So again, Phoenix LiveView will always help you out, and it will tell you when you have an error in your code. And so here it's just telling us that the handle event is missing. And so again, I told you, I remember that I mentioned that add is our event name. So Pheonix click is triggering the add event, but we don't have an event handler. So just like in JavaScript where you have event handlers, Pheonix has event handlers, but we don't have to write JavaScript to use them. Instead, we write Elixir code. And so what we're going to do is we're going to define an event handler. So we're going to define handle event, and we are handling the add event. And we also have to pass in if we are using any params, which we're not. And then we always need to pass the socket. Again, we are always passing the socket back and forth to establish that two-way communication. And now we are going to issue a reply, or no reply, I should say. And we are going to assign to the socket. What we're going to do here is, just like we did in the mount, we're going to assign a value to the socket. And so what we're going to do, the reason that we're going to do this is we want to add to the number. So what we can do is we can tell Pheonix that we want to take the number that we have. We're going to take number, and we are going to make it be socket.assigns.number. And we are going to add 1 to it. And we'll save that. And let's head back over to our code, and let's click the add button. Look at this. So we just created some dynamic functionality without writing a single line of JavaScript. How crazy is that? So we have a button that triggers an event which updates this variable, and all we did is just write Phoenix LiveView. So yeah, no JavaScript. This is an application that is acting like it has JavaScript, but it has no JavaScript. And this page, if you notice, it's not refreshing. It doesn't refresh. When I click add, it just is instant. That's a socket communication. So we have our two-way communication between us and LiveView. So this is really, really awesome stuff. And then if we wanted to, we could do the same thing where we had another button to subtract, and we would just make another handle event to subtract. But it would just be kind of duplicated code, so I'll forego it. But if you wanted to, a nice challenge right now is to pause the video and just go ahead and take this button and this handle event and just expand it to have like a subtract. And then you could just do -1 instead of add 1. And let's go ahead and set our number to 0. So when we refresh the page, we start at 0 and we add to it starting from 0. So there you go. And so yeah, let's take a look at what else we can do, because we can do a few more things with Phoenix LiveView that is really, really cool. So in the next video, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this application,